He traveled in the spirit realm, and he says he's watched civilizations rise and fall. You know how long it takes to watch a civilization rise and fall?
1 minute.
Right. Well, yeah. Well, from a higher dimension, from the third dimension, it takes forever.
When people say they connect to the other side, they have these experiences. Use my dad for example. His soul, whatever you want to call it. So he's still active in another dimension, you believe?
I believe that he's active in another dimension. And it's a way for the universe to experience itself subjectively through all of us. We're all just an iteration of the actual universal consciousness. There's only one entity or one consciousness actually here. You and I sitting across this table talking to each other, we're just talking to ourselves.
How?
Because there's only one entity, there's only one consciousness.
So we're all connected.
We're all connected.
We're all one.
Yes.
What's up, y'all? Today's episode of Dead Talks is with Billy Carson. You may have seen him on the Joe Rogan Experience, Andrew Schultz's podcast, or his own Forbidden Knowledge. And he has led a life of research as it pertains to ancient civilization, ancient cultures, metaphysics, and extraterrestrial stuff that is way above my head. I sucked down a large cup of coffee and put down some nootropics to try to keep up. Not sure I did, but I had so much fun. This man is so dope. I had such a good time getting to know him, sitting down face to face in New York City, having some awesome conversations as it pertains to ancient cultures. I wanted to tie the link between life and death and what ancient history says about death, the afterlife, what they believed, and how it brought us to here today. And also, Billy opened up a little private side to him in regards to his childhood. He got very emotional in the middle of the episode, so it was really cool to see that side of him. Very inspirational, as well as all the other stuff that comes with this jam-packed hour-and-a-half conversation. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you have fun as much as I did. Again, it was an honor to talk to this man. And as usual, anyone that wants to support the Patreon, support the show, it would mean a lot. Thank you to those that have. And as usual, again, I'll stop talking. Hope you enjoy the show. Till next time. Billy, I can't say enough how excited I am about to talk to you.
Thank you.
And I really appreciate your time here. I want to express the gratitude there. And for anyone that may or may not know you, which I'm sure most of them do, please feel free to introduce yourself.
Well, the short version is I feel like I'm a Jedi that creates ripples in the space-time continuum that alters future realities in the third dimension. And so by that, I mean that I'm doing the work now and you're doing the work now. That creates ripple in time. Those ripples go out into the future. And then we actually intersect those ripples at a point in time in the future. And we have those changes that occur based on things that we're doing now today. The long version is...
I was like, you got me there already, man. This is what I was talking about. I love it so much. You have no idea. It's just amazing.
I'm the founder of Forbidden Knowledge Incorporated, which is right now currently a private company, but we're looking to uplist to NASDAQ soon. We do have an offering for shares of the company right now. We're doing a raise, but we have a streaming TV platform, a book publishing company, a record label that produces conscious music that even had aired on Billboard for 8 weeks in 2018. We also have an e-commerce company and a clothing company, all built into one. And the main purpose behind it is to uplift humanity from every single aspect of reality.
How the hell do you have time to talk to me right now? And congratulations on your premiere yesterday as well.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Yeah,
it's amazing. We'll plug that, of course. And as we discussed pre-recording, I have a fascination with death, as you would see, and the historical content I have a deep fascination with, and definitely a lack of education, I would say, which is why I'm so excited to talk to you. So I do want to tap into that, but more personally, I would love to hear more and share more about your experience with loss, as you mentioned with your parents.
Yeah, I've got both of my parents are gone. You know, I'll be 53 in September, so in a few weeks I turn 53, but I lost my parents quite some time ago. I lost my mom about 16 years ago and lost my father about 6 years ago. And my mom was, obviously it's always tough when you lose your mom. And I feel a little bad about that death because they moved down to Melbourne, Florida, and I was living in Fort Lauderdale area. And I would go up there quite a bit to see my mom in Melbourne, Florida, and the family, and during holidays and gatherings and so forth. But there's always some type of turmoil or trauma or drama going on, because we had a very dysfunctional family, to be honest with you. I mean, there was a lot of hatred. There was some sexual abuse that had occurred within the family, which created more stress. And then just the being there and being around those situations during the holidays, it always created like these tumultuous situations. At one point, I decided to just kind of back off gradually. And I stopped going and I stopped seeing my mom as much as I normally would have. So in that regard, I'm kind of have some regrets in that because she started saying that she was feeling sick and she was having these issues. And I thought that she was just finally trying to find an excuse to leave my dad because they had just a very dysfunctional relationship, as my father was a drug addict and alcoholic since I was born, and even before. And so I thought maybe she had just gotten completely fed up with it and was trying to find a way to get away because she was saying that she was living with my grandmother. And so I still didn't take those as cues that she was really getting sick.
Mhm.
And the more I talked to my nana, and she was telling me like, your mom is really, she's really something's really wrong with her. And I would call her a little bit here and there to find out like, is this real or are you what are the what are you experiencing? And I thought maybe she was just going through some type of midlife crisis or something. Come to find out, she was really sick, and it took over a year for the doctors to diagnose her with Lou Gehrig's disease,
Yeah.
which is a horrible way to die. And so by the time I really got a chance to go back, I hadn't seen her in like a year and a half. By the time I got up to go see her, she was already on her deathbed. Couldn't walk, couldn't get up, couldn't use the bathroom on her own or anything. And I had a good conversation with her there. I wish if I could get tattoos, I'm just allergic to the ink. I would tattoo with her, the last words, that she told me, where she was proud of me and that she was happy with everything I was able to accomplish up to that point.
Mhm.
And that was a while ago. But yeah, just Lou Gehrig's disease. It's the worst way. Now, when they did the autopsies, when they found the aspartame on her brain, and she was addicted to aspartame, the sweetener. She would use it in everything. What happened was the doctors told her she was pre-diabetic, and so they gave her this aspartame to buy this liquid form, and she would put it in everything. I mean, everything. She was always into very sweet drinks and putting it on even rice and beans and everything else, believe it or not. And
Really?
she was putting it on everything, and that aspartame actually poisoned her. It triggered something in the brain, which then triggered or activated the ALS,
No
which is
shit.
what she subsequently died from. So stay away from that stuff, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole other rabbit hole we can go down with the
Yeah.
American food industry, but that's
Yeah.
a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
But one thing I do want to tap into, because you mentioned the turmoil you and your family experienced, and maybe a slight feeling of regret or just
Yeah.
looking back on things and could have been X, Y, Z.
Mhm.
Were you cognitive of that immediately when you found out that she was gearing towards the end of her life? Like, obviously, the grief process and losing someone is so
Yeah.
complicated and just it makes no sense in many
Mhm.
times. So, like, what was your overwhelming emotion at that time? Was it
Yeah.
was it that immediate regret, or was that something that developed down the line?
That was immediate regret, just that I almost feel like I wasn't there for my mom. I was paying her bills, I was paying her mortgage payment, I had been doing that for years anyway.
Mhm.
But just being there, like seeing her face to face and just expressing that love. We didn't grow up in a very nurturing household, and I was still struggling to learn how to express love because I didn't really receive it in that kind of way. There wasn't a lot of hugs and I love yous growing up,
Mhm.
but I knew that they did, but it just wasn't there. And so I guess in some ways I was struggling with understanding how to express that affection. And I do have regrets that I wasn't able to achieve that level of affection at that time.
So how do you consolidate that now? Like,
Yeah.
is that something you've worked with?
Yeah, I've worked through it. I've done trauma work on it. I've brought it back up and analyzed it, felt the pain of it, and the thing about growing consciously and how you become born again in the spirit is realizing things that happened in the past, understanding the things that led up to your decisions, understanding what you may or may not have done wrong, and if you feel like you've done something wrong, to be able to face that head on, look
Mhm.
yourself in the mirror and then fully and wholeheartedly actually forgive yourself. A lot of people are waiting for an outside source to come in and forgive them. It's never going to happen. That's just a fairy tale. You have to forgive yourself, and not only forgive yourself. The next thing I had to do was learn from that mistake.
Mhm.
So that mistake taught me a valuable lesson in life, and to not be able to duplicate that mistake ever again. And that's when you grow consciously and spiritually. And that's what I'm saying, being born again in the spirit. When you can look back on your previous self and see, well, I was here. Now I'm here because I recognize that I know more, I understand more, and I can act in ways that are never going to allow that to happen again, or for me to not allow that to happen to anybody else again.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what we're gonna get into maybe the afterlife at some point because I have
Yeah.
questions on that. But I think that's why we're here.
Mhm.
Maybe that's a silly way to dumb it down, but I
Mhm.
think lessons is literally our existence in many ways.
Yes.
And at the same time, it's like I feel like we put so much pressure on ourselves to apply those lessons, and when we mess up again, it just starts digging ourselves deeper and deeper.
Mhm.
But I think part of that process is giving yourself a little bit of grace
Yeah.
and realize we're all fucking human. Like,
That's
like,
right.
you know what I mean? It's like
That's right.
I mean, we're gonna make mistakes, and it's like I'm all. Then the whole question is like, how much does it really matter?
Yeah.
Like, it matters like in our small world, but
Mhm.
then the conversation we're gonna dive into, like the ripple effects of
Yeah.
beyond. It's like I don't know. I'm going down a rabbit hole with no end right now,
Mhm.
but you just kind of got me thinking
Yeah.
just about like I make mistakes, And especially with stuff that comes with regret, because regret is a really tough one, because
Yeah.
you're looking back at something you can't change, you can only learn from.
Right.
And so as you as a grown man today, with that growing up with no affection or maybe minimal affection and love that you expressed,
Yeah.
do you do you find yourself doing the same thing, or are you at this point in your life expressing more?
I finally, got to a point in my life now when I learned how to express more affection, love, tell people I love them. And it took some time to develop that, to break out of that shell, because when you're not used to doing something, and you can turn it into a habit, but that habit can be kind of fake or surface. But you have to really feel that love and feel that affection. It can't be fake. And so I started realizing that I was trying to do it, but it wasn't real. I was just kind of going through the motions.
Mhm.
And I've gone through, several relationships with that mindset and that level of affection, very surface level. And it's no wonder why. There's other factors to play there, but no wonder why they didn't really work out.
Mhm.
And it's not always the other person. Sometimes it's what you input as well, or not input.
Yeah.
And fortunately for me, just recently, within the last 4 years, I've been really able to tap into that balance of masculine, feminine energy, and be able to express myself fully and totally to my loved ones, and tell them that I love them, and give them hugs, and really show that affection, and tell my wife that I love her, and really actually truly mean it on a very deep level. It took some time for me to get to that point.
And that's what I'm curious about, because you also you mentioned actually forgiving yourself. You can
Yeah.
have that conversation in your head, but then and back to what you said, it kind of feels like I'm faking it in certain
Yeah.
ways. But what is that switch? What was that realization through that work? Because obviously you're a very
Yeah.
intelligent person,
Mhm.
so I wonder if that intelligence can get in the way of
Yeah.
simplifying and like overthinking kind of
Yeah.
thing. But what is that click that
Mhm.
happened? Was it just literally just the contemplation of it over X amount of time?
Yeah, contemplation, thinking about it. And one thing I learned, actually being with my now wife, is she told me that sometimes you're too logical. You work strictly on data points. But when you're dealing with emotions in life, it isn't just based on strictly logic and data points. So you have to feel in your
Yeah.
body. She taught me how to go into my body and feel my emotions and sense what's really going on. And through that process of practicing that, I began to realize, oh, there's more here. There's a lot deeper world that exists
Mhm.
within this realm of emotions and feeling that I've got to tap into, to take away some of the stoicism that I was operating in. And when I did that and released that and opened up and let go of the potential embarrassment of being emotional and feeling myself, then is when I had the big epiphanies. And
Yeah.
that's when I realized, oh, wow. And that's when I began to really grow emotionally.
Is there any ties to what you're saying in regards to, let's say, guys, we're tying this into the ancient past.
Mhm.
Do you think back then, whatever that means, so long back then, was there more ties into that inwardness and less logical and more feeling and intuition and whatever the heck we got going on in here? Was there more ties to that as opposed to today, where people seem maybe more logical and
Mhm.
data operational? If that makes sense,
Yeah.
is that a big difference besides many things?
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, if you go into the ancient past, like the real deep antiquity, you find out, man, that everything was all about spirituality, understanding the afterlife, being ready and prepared to transfer or transform into the next version of yourself, being ready to transfer your mind into new bodies. I mean, all these things come up, when you're dealing with the ancient past. They talk about literally like controlling incarnations.
Yeah, and okay, well, let's just get into it.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you talk about this stuff, I'm going to ask you to explain to people, like and when I say people, I mean me.
Yeah.
Very the lame in terms of some things. You talk
Yeah.
about the Emerald tablets and the Sumerian tablets. What is going on with those two? Is that a good place to start for the
Yeah.
discussion when it comes to, like, when we're talking about this death afterlife conversation? Like, would you say
yeah.
that is it the starting point?
Oh, great starting point. Yeah.
Okay, let's just go there. I know I don't have you for the next 24 hours,
Yeah.
but where would you start with the two of those and explain those to people if they don't know?
I would start first. Let's start with the emerald tablets,
Mhm.
right? So there's two versions of the tablets. There's an emerald tablet of Thoth, which is a singular tablet located at Cambridge. And there's the emerald tablets, plural, of Thoth. And those are located in the Vatican archive in Rome.
Mhm.
Both of these writings were authored directly by Thoth himself, Thoth. He's known as also Tahuti and Jehuti in Africa. To the ancient Cometians, or the Kemetic people, which is ancient Egypt, he was known as Thoth. He ruled over the land of Kemet for 16,000 years, one man.
It's a little longer than our presidential 4 years we got.
That's a long
Okay, yeah,
time.
it's
That's a pretty long time.
Yeah.
That's not according to me. That's according to their history. And so this guy, Thoth, he talked about being able to live immortality, achieve immortality through controlling his incarnations. And what he would do is he would go into something called the halls of Amenti. Now, only the elite of the elites had these halls of Amenti. His father, Ea Enki, had one, he had one, and Lil had one. And the 7 masters also had these halls of amenities. And these halls of amenities were deep underground in some cases. The one he talked about was underneath the Great Pyramid. Now, I've been down this subterranean shaft, which goes down 65 meters. I think maybe less than 4,000 people have ever been down this shaft in history of Egypt. Since they started, letting people come to the pyramid. And then another 30 meters down beneath that. And there's more to go beneath even that.
There's more?
Oh, there's more.
And you know what's down there?
Oh, yeah. No, all that's down there is you have chambers. They discovered them through a special type of a scan, a muon scan. They discovered these huge halls underground, underneath the Great Pyramid that extend out underneath Giza a mile. And all of them appear to be potentially empty. They won't tell us what was there or what wasn't there. But these halls of Amenti that were written 36,000 years ago by Thoth, they actually exist right now today.
So when you said they won't tell you what was there, is there what's going on there?
In other words, they won't give us an idea if they went down there and found something and took it away, or is it still there? They won't give us that data, but they have confirmed the halls are actually there.
What are they hiding, you think? It's known, though. It is.
Yeah.
Some people know what's going on.
Yeah, there's some people know. Yeah.
So are you going to get to that?
Zahi Hawass and many others. It's called the Halls of Amenti, where they have the rejuvenation chambers. Now, there's another area in Saqqara where they have another Halls of Amenti. They call it the Serapeum, and that's underground, and that is Enlil's or Enki's Halls of Amenti. I believe it's potentially Enki's Ptah in ancient Kemet, his Halls of Amenti. And these are gigantic, megalithic granite and diorite stone boxes that are in these halls, these alcoves are so tight, the box barely fits in there. Now, to give you an idea of why this is important, because 1,000-ton diorite box or 1,000-ton crystal granite box has to be carved from a piece that's about almost 2/3 larger than what you carved it down to. So that means that, first of all, you couldn't roll a gigantic ball of granite down there because it can't fit. The second thing is you can't even fit it into the alcove or the hall. And the third thing is, so you can't carve it in there. So how did they get there? You can't even navigate them after you carve them outside and put it, you can't get them. They're too big to navigate into those alcoves, which means they were manifested there or teleported there. Mm-hmm. When you analyze these halls, you realize that they look like the halls or segments of modules of a machine. And I took my Geiger counter with me, and I realized that these boxes are still radioactive.
No shit.
They have higher than background radiation. And to confirm this, the last time I took people on a tour of Egypt, we got the head of antiquities to allow us to go in a locked door that had been locked for 50 years down in the Serapeum Halls of Amenti. And when we opened that door, there was almost a 2,000-ton stone box there made of diorite, and it had a radiation symbol on it.
What?
Still radioactive right now.
And what's the timeline on this right now? Wait, how many years ago?
We're talking, listen, these things could be 30, 40,000 years old. This is way older than mainstream is saying 4,000 or 5,000. No, these things are tens of thousands of years old, and it's just mind-blowing.
Yeah, so if we're not taught this, clearly, obviously, there's reasons why they would put the kibosh on this.
Oh, yeah.
And is this
life extension?
Life extension?
Yeah, it's life extension. Thoth says he would put his body in these things, right? And he would put his body in there. He would create bodies. So we're talking about avatars.
What is that? Okay, go on.
He wouldn't steal a body. Now, this is something we can do right now in science. I can take a skin cell from you right now. In laboratory conditions, I could turn your skin cell into stem cells. Mm-hmm. Then I could take that culture of stem cells and I can grow them, and then I can create a synthetic embryo from your skin cell. Now I could take that synthetic embryo and I can grow it to a full-grown version of you, and then I can actually transfer your mind into that new body. That's what they were doing back then.
If you can make me again, make me a few inches taller so I can get to that 6-foot mark like I've been talking about for years. So where does this all tie into? Because if we're creating synthetic this, that, new bodies, all that, where is death even a thing?
It's not going to be soon. I mean, if you can live another 15 years to 20 years and you've got, unless the economic system changes, if you've got the right amount of capital, you can live to 200-300 years old.
I don't want that. I don't want that's too long. What about back then? So what do you see in regards to any writings, whether in the tablets or just across your knowledge about, was there discussion about death in the afterlife as we know it? Because for what you're explaining with all this stuff, seems completely different, which doesn't make sense when I'm saying this out loud.
Yeah, yeah.
But what is the ancient literature, like what is said about death and beliefs of afterlife?
Mhm.
And then I have more questions, but let's
Well,
start
the
there.
elites believed that they were immortals because they had overcome death through two methods. One, through the elixir of life, which was this concoction, a mixture of something they would drink to heal their wounds and organs, which was a mixture of colloidal silver and monoatomic gold water, and a third substance, which we don't specifically know exactly what it was. It was some type of a bush that grew in the bottom of a river. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yes. It's
Okay.
in the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is one of the greatest epics in the Sumerian tales that exist, and it's in the British Museum. And then the second thing is these halls of Amenti, where they would create these rejuvenation chambers, where both would put a body in there to rejuvenate over the course of 100 years. And he said he would walk amongst men unlike a man. Then he'd come back when that body was worn out, transferring his mind or consciousness into a new body, which they're doing in 2045.com. That's through Ray Kurzweil, this project where they're creating avatars and trying to transfer human minds into new bodies. So that's crazy. So we're working on doing what happened back then. Now, in terms of let's look at the ancient Egyptians, for example. During the time of ancient Kemet, before it was called Egypt, these pharaohs, which were demigods, they were half human, half Anunnaki. Kingship was handed down to them to be the liaison between the Anunnaki and mankind after the Great Flood. Now, prior to the Great Flood, we have the Sumerian Kings list, which is located in the Ashmolean Museum in Oxford, England. This list is a stone tablet that is covered in four sided with ancient texts and cuneiform writing that has been deciphered for over 180 years, that gives you the ruling and the kingship of these kings and the years that they ruled. One king, Alagar, will rule for 28,000 years. Another king ruling for 36,000 years. Another king rules for 14,000 years.
You said it again?
14,000. 8 kings ruled for over 241,000 years.
Okay, so if they're living this long, and they're obviously intentionally living that long, but prior to that, they were dying. There was actual death.
Well, no, these kings weren't dying. These are beings that had found a way to achieve a version of immortality.
Right.
Some of them could die because in these tales, in these epics, some are actually murdered and killed through battle and war. So they can
normal
actually,
death, like
normal
just
death,
nothing crazy.
Yeah, sometimes they can't bring them back.
Okay.
Sometimes they can bring you back, but sometimes they can't.
And why did they want to stay alive so long? Like, were they avoiding something? They know something about if they die, they go somewhere?
They just had achieved this high level of geneticism and genetics and DNA and telomere perseverance and all these different techniques to extend life.
Kind of like what we're trying to do now.
Same exact thing. We're only doing exactly what they were doing.
So is there any evidence of what they thought would happen in an afterlife? Was there an afterlife? What did they believe?
Well, the Egyptians, when you go from the Kemetics, so where I was going was the Kemetic people were taught about this life extension, and they were taught how to mummify. That was the original origins of mummification. They weren't taught to be mummified, that the kings would be mummified for the purpose of going into the afterlife and sailing on the solar boat. That became a mythology later on with dynastic era Egyptians. The reason why these kings would be buried in the Valley of the Kings with all their gold, all their money, their wives, their cats, right? I mean, the maids and everything else was because they believed they were going to come back and use that. If you were going to go on a solar boat and head into the afterworld, why would you kill everybody and have your money there? Because clearly, your money can't be used in the afterlife. It was because they were told by these beings who were their relatives that we preserve you. This is the technique to preserve your DNA, and we will clone you, and we will bring you back, and you will have access to your riches again.
And then again, where are they going? Like, they're coming back, but do they have perception on where they're going? Like,
Well,
what the afterlife is like?
Yeah, their perception of the afterlife was, in the ancients like Shilbaba and the underworld and everything else. But a lot of that became mythology.
Just mythology.
The true fact is that they thought they were really coming back to live life again here in the third dimension and regain control of their own kingdom.
So that's different than the standard belief of reincarnation. That is intentional.
They say that they learn how to incarnate at will. And Thoth the Atlantean, he says, I can incarnate at will on and in the plane I desire. He's talking about incarnating not only in the third dimension, he says he can incarnate into higher dimensions.
What's going on in those dimensions?
Well, there's life in every dimension. We know that the universe itself is comprised of at least 11 dimensions, according to theoretical physicists, like Michio Kaku, for example. Otherwise, the universe would actually collapse. The numeric models would say that it would literally collapse on itself. We also discovered at the Brain Institute about 4 years ago that the human brain connects to 11 dimensions. So we see this connection between the brain and the universe, both having connectivity to higher dimensions. And so in each dimension is a realm. And all these dimensions are stacked directly on top of each other. We're sitting with dimensions stacked on top of us right now. They're compactified less than one Planck unit away from the next one in a 90-degree angle. And so that means that what's keeping us from getting into higher dimensions is nothing but a frequency. So if you can match the frequency or vibration of a higher dimension, you can walk right in, which could explain paranormal activity in our realm. Imagine a person ascends here spiritually from this dimension, leaves this avatar body behind, goes to a higher dimension, but they have the ability to match the frequency slightly of our dimension. This could be the source of paranormal activity, apparitions, and all these things. It could be beings that have ascended to higher dimensions or that already existed there that are adjusting their frequency to match slightly the subatomic frequency or the vibration of the third dimension.
So how does that tie into, let's just say, okay, I lost my dad, you lost your parents, that paranormal activity, however you want to call it, when people say they connect to the other side, they have these experiences, is that what we're talking about? And do you believe in that?
I believe in that.
So use my dad, for example, his soul, whatever you want to call it. So he's still active in another dimension, you believe?
I believe that he's active in another dimension. I believe that just the way that I've analyzed this third dimension as being a proving ground, like you talked earlier, as a test. And it's a way for the universe to experience itself subjectively through all of us. We're all just an iteration of the actual universal consciousness. There's only one entity or one consciousness actually here. You and I sitting across this table talking to each other, we're just talking to ourselves.
How?
Because there's only one entity. There's only one consciousness.
So we're all connected.
We're all connected.
We're all one.
Yes. So for example, imagine a radio station in your city. It's broadcasting out radio stations, right? 99.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, but the source is coming from one location. Same thing here. The universal source is putting out 0.1, 0.2. I'm 0.1, you're 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5. Your avatar body is tuned to pick up the 0.1 frequency. I'm tuned to pick up the 0.2 frequency, a slight variation of the one source frequency to give it the illusion of individuality, the illusion of separation, when in true reality, there is none. The universe is actually utilizing everything that exists in the third dimension to experience itself subjectively through each and every one of us and learn what it's like to be Billy Carson, what it's like to be you and everyone else. And it's gathering data and information so it can understand what is it like to go from one state of mind or one state of consciousness to another over time? What is this evolution of consciousness? What is this evolution of the mind throughout all beings, throughout the entire known universe?
Is everything you just told me, is that all coming from, is it a blend of what you believe in, also what you've just learned, everything you've told me prior, everything you've learned? Like this is written down, this has been passed down type stuff?
It's a blend of information that I've read and studied through a lot of ancient texts, tablets, scriptures, papyruses, everything from the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita, Tibetan Book of the Dead, the Egyptian book of Going Forth by Day, the Enuma Elish, the Seven Tablets of Creation, the Epic of Atrahasis, the Code of Hammurabi, the Myth of Etana. I mean, I can go on and on. I've accumulated over 1,000 tablets and texts and scriptures over all these years. And the culmination of all that allowed me to connect enough data points to begin to paint myself a picture. So in the end, what I just said is kind of really a theory. But if you believe in as above, so below, what happens in the micro is happening in the macro and vice versa, then you have to understand that the human brain is encased in complete darkness. It doesn't know anything, but it has friends: touch, smell, seeing, hearing, tasting, right? So it has sensory perception. So let's take that as a fractal of what could be happening on a larger scale. The brain says, I don't know what's going on out there. Can you guys go gather me some information? So the friends go out, they start touching, smelling, tasting, listening, and seeing and listening and everything else. But the friends don't know what they're gathering. They just collect data. They transmit the data through electrical signals back to the brain. The brain sorts it out and projects a hologram, and you navigate this matrix based on a holographic projection from data. That's how we move around this universe.
Okay, so let's talk about the main data point, that source, that one that we're taking little raindrops from. What's going on with that? Like we talking about 30,000 years ago, XYZ. What about before that? Like why is that? Why does this all exist? What the hell is going on?
This is a grand experiment.
Who's running the experiment?
That's a good question. We're inside of an ancestor civilization, an ancestor universe that's created by an ancestor civilization, I should say. So I wrote a book which just came out. It's called Fractal Holographic Universe. It's number one in fractal mathematics and number one in quantum theory. But in this book, I'm breaking down the science from real quantum physicists, theoretical physicists, and experts in supersymmetry on what this universe is made of and potentially what really is going on. Why is this here? What's going on? Well, when you analyze the fact that on the larger scale, the universal mind is utilizing us as its sensory perception system. and we're out here collecting data and transmitting information back to it so it can experience what it's like to be in the third dimension. Now, when you begin to realize and analyze what is running this ether, what is running this universe, they found a mathematical code. It's called Adinkra codes. Now, these Adinkra codes go back to the ancient Dogon Adinkra symbols from Africa. When you turn them into three-dimensional objects, there's mathematical codes hidden in them that was discovered by Professor Sylvester James Gates Jr. at the University of Maryland. And these error-correcting codes are the same exact error-correcting codes that run search engines and web browsers, but they found those same codes in the ether of space-time.
What? Okay. Go on.
So they discovered that this universe, the ancients were right. The Bible is right. The Quran is right. We're living in a creation. Now, the method of creation is something called a fractal holographic universal matrix. This is an energetic grid created by the Mandelbrot set fractal mathematical equation discovered by Benoit Mandelbrot. And then within that code are error correcting codes that run the programming code that keep this entire universe functioning. We are literally creating one frame at a time as we need it in this universe. So fractal mathematics talks about the fact that they discovered this one fractal code, which is a very small mathematical formula that can create everything that exists in the known universe. And Pixar took that code from Benoit Mandelbrot and imported it into their cartoon or their animation software. They were the first ones to do it. They were able to create entire movies from one formula. The animation, the movements, the characters, the background scenes, the sky, the mountains, and all that, it's being created on the fly as the program code needs it. And they discovered that's the same exact code that's creating everything we need in this universe. So due to the double slit experiment in quantum physics, we discovered that everything exists in terms of wave-particle duality, meaning that you're here and I'm here. Our homes exist as waves of potential. They're not even there unless another conscious observer looks at it, and those stacked atoms will collapse back into the same format. But when nobody's looking, they exist as waves of potential, waves of light. And only conscious observation collapses them into solid matter. So this universe is being created frame by frame by frame.
Ah, that actually made sense to me. Like I actually understood that one, I think. That's fucking mind-blowing, dude. That's okay, so that formula you just told me, is that the source, or is there still a step of like who's creating that formula?
Now, this is where it goes. Oh. So who's creating? Who was the creator of this formula?
Who, what?
The Anunnaki in the ancient tablets, they call it the creator of all. So they didn't say God, they don't say universe, they said the creator of all.
I'm sorry to cut you off. Just tell everyone who the Anunnaki, I know you mentioned already, but explain that.
The Anunnaki are these beings that are mentioned in ancient texts, tablets, scriptures, and papyruses from all around the world, all ancient cultures. In the Bible, they're called the Anak. In the Bible, it says we were grasshoppers in their eyesight. These were men of mighty, men of renown in the biblical text. In the Quran, same thing. In the indigenous cultures throughout the North Americas, the South Americas, Europe, all the way down into Australia, the same thing. Anuna, Anunnaki, in the ancient Kemet, the Netiru, the gods that came and turned mud into a kingdom. Right? All these people reference them. The Greeks call them the Pantheon. These are all the same beings, this group of beings that supposedly came from out of space to this planet and engaged mankind. In the book of Enoch, you discover their names and some of the things they did here. The first thing they did was Azazel taught human beings how to get metal ore out of the ground and smelt it and turn it into a sword that can cut somebody's head off. So it's not too good of a teaching there.
Not ideal.
But they engage it. They are the reason for the upturn in technological advancement in human civilization at such a rapid pace. The development of cities, canals, cleaning out the Tigris and Euphrates River to create irrigation. All of that came from these beings. It's all written about in the ancient Sumerian tablets.
And that's where it all starts. Like from there, that's where you get the Quran, the information in the Quran, Bible, all that. It all trickles down.
The biblical text is all copied from, in the Quran, it's all copied ancient texts from these ancient tablets, scriptures, papyruses. It's all copied. The Bible was written from 100 AD to 900 AD, long after the people were dead and gone.
Yeah. And I apologize for cutting you off. I just wanted you to explain the Anunnaki, but now you're going back to the formula and then who wrote that.
Right.
You mentioned the Anunnaki at some point there.
So we're talking about, listen, in these ancient texts, the Anunnaki say the creator of all. So who's the creator of all? They themselves, who are masquerading as gods on this planet to people, knew that they weren't the creator of all, but there was somebody above them that really created
Kanye
everything.
West.
Right? Right? So that's funny. So who is this? So in theoretical physicists and quantum physicists have been bumping this idea around, like, what is base reality? It appears that we're not living in base reality, and I cover this in my book. It appears that we're living in this stacked reality matrix. In other words, we have a universe here, but there could be one above us, an ancestor civilization, and another
Is it
ancestor
the 11
civilization.
dimensions or no?
No, this is outside of 11.
Oh,
This
Jesus,
is just
Mary and
this
Joseph.
is just to create a universe that's 11 dimensional. For example, we have a video game. 14 college students created a video game called No Man's Sky. It's on one DVD disc. It has 80 quadrillion planets and unlimited life forms, and the game never ends. Now they're going to inject AI into this software. So these people that are in there are people in there, they're going to become conscious. They're going to be asking, who is our creator? Why are we here? Who created this universe? What is our big bang? Well, when we turn your game console on, that's the big bang.
So this becomes sentient? They'll be...
Oh yeah. We're going to get to AGI soon, which is the next level of sentience for machine learning and computer learning. And so now also the Sims owner, the creator of the Sims, people go to jobs, they have babies, they go to parties. They're going to insert the AI in there, and those people are going to become conscious. So we're only replicating what's already been done. Now we're creating conscious universes within this universe.
So is it possible we're in the Sims right now?
Yeah. This is a simulation.
I wish it was, because so I used to play Sims growing up, and there was one cheat code. It was Rosebud, semicolon. It was like, and you get all the money in the world. So after this,
no, there's cheat codes here.
And I'm getting all. There's so many directions I want to go here. So is that the cheat code? Is the whole manifestation?
The cheat code is manifestation.
Sorry to cut you off. There's so much information. I'm trying to keep it tight.
You're not cutting me off. It's okay.
I
The cheat code is learning how to operate within the power of abundance and manifestation and walking in your divine power. Understanding the power that's within you and going to inner space. Don't worry about outer space. And through that method, you can achieve anything you want in this realm.
And again, inward.
Yes. Inward.
And how do you tap into your inward? Is that meditate? Is there specific methods? Is that a secret you can't share?
There's a few. Yes, there's a few. Yeah. I do a walking meditation. So meditation is not just sitting in a lotus position, like this. That's a different type of meditation. But when you do a walking meditation, and even sports are meditation, sports that force you to use the left and right side of the body, like table tennis, which was recommended by Dr. Daniel Amen to me, it creates something that activates the left and the right hemisphere of the brain. And when you're doing that, plus also then hyper-focusing on something, you create this hyper-focus and you create this ability, this incredible ability for the brain to really sync up with the thing that you're trying to create or manifest or achieve. And it gives you this higher level of ability to get that thing. For example, I'm walking down the beach, I'm doing my walking meditation, activating left and right hemisphere. I'm coming up with new music. I'm coming up with ideas for shows and documentaries and TV series and plans for the store and what can I do to help the world? How can I create better communities? And all these ideas come, but now because I'm doing it through that hyper-focused meditation walk, I then go back. The next step is to create action steps for those thoughts that came up during the meditation walk, great epiphanies that I had. And then through the action steps, those create manifestations.
Okay, so logistically, what is the step-by-step of this actual walk? Are you specifically doing anything emotionally or any kind of mantra, or is it literally just walking and focusing on whatever you want to accomplish?
Walking and focusing on whatever you want to accomplish. And you'll be surprised how many phenomenal ideas will pop into your mind through that walking meditation. I do a 5-mile walking meditation whenever I'm in the area of my house. On the weekends, I do a 5-mile beach walk. And it's just, for the last 15 years, it's changed my life and transformed my life immensely. And I came up with a formula for this. It's called CT multiplied by A equals M. Conscious thought multiplied by action equals manifestation. You can't get to the manifestation without the first two.
Yeah, that's where I think it gets confused. People, I'm just going to manifest and sit there and do nothing. It's the action.
Right.
So in regards to that, I want to pretend I'm going to try to keep it on topic, just so it's an excuse to talk to you, obviously. Yeah. So if someone's, say, going through whatever X, Y, Z, it doesn't have to be these grand tasks. Mm-hmm. If they're just feeling something emotionally, whether it's grief, this, that, or the other, you can just apply this walking meditation with the focus of, I want to feel, is it like a positive affirmation while you're saying it? Like, say you're feeling deep grief, I want to get through this. Like, what are the words someone might say? For
grief and things like that, depression, it goes to positive. I'm glad you brought positive affirmations. That's why I wrote a song called Affirmations. I think it has millions of streams on Apple Music and everything else worldwide. And so this affirmation song, what it does, it empowers you by reprogramming yourself on a positive high frequency level, because the cymatic frequencies that are coming out of your vocal box, they sound like words though. We call them words, but they're actually frequencies. Mm-hmm. Those frequencies vibrate at a specific range that actually excite the cells in your body. Mm-hmm. And those cell excitements actually create a change in the way you see yourself, the way you feel yourself. emotionally, starts to release different hormones in the body. And scientists did an experiment. If you speak positive affirmations out loud to yourself at least 3 times a day with real feeling and emotion behind it, in 21 days, you actually rewrite your DNA. Scientifically proven.
And what is the trick? Because I do apply that.
Yeah.
And sometimes it goes back to what you said earlier about that faking idea, which I think is, in my opinion, part of it. You got to do it until you do feel it.
Yeah.
And is that part of it? Because like, how do you personally pull up that emotion? Is it maybe it's just like clockwork for you now? But what is that step to actually feel it as opposed to just saying it? Because it's a heart-mind connection. I feel is like Dispenza always says. I feel like is the important connection. And I kind of feel like that's what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah.
How do you feel that?
The reason why I created the song is because music has the ability to tap into emotion.
That frequency?
The frequency. So I created a very emotional sounding song with real violin and everything else. And shout out to Richard Wagner for helping me produce this track. He's on the violin. But this song with the affirmations on top actually help you achieve this. I mean, so many people come up to me from all over the world whenever I go. They get so emotional talking about this song. And the affirmations that I put into this 3 minutes and whatever, 40 seconds, it can apply to anyone in any situation throughout anybody's life. And so they get into the habit and the emotion of going through this. And then once you do that enough, you can just tap into it. So the song kind of kickstarts. So for me, it's the music that kickstarts the feeling and the emotion. And then saying the affirmation allows me to embed that emotion into the affirmations and then get my body to respond.
Frequencies, man.
Yeah.
What you're doing can you fly? Like, how'd you get here? Some crazy shit, man. I fucking love it. This is like my audition to become your friend. This is insane. Okay, so I want to go backwards again, backwards, forwards, whatever. Time's an illusion. When we're talking about it, all came from one source, and I feel like that might offend a lot of people that have their specific beliefs. Oh, wait, no, it started with the Bible, it started with X, that, and the other, but it really came from way before.
Way before.
So is it just human shit that just kind of like flooded it, and where because I always said I feel like with the religions that I don't know everything about, I feel like we're all kind of saying the same thing.
We're all kind of saying the same thing.
It's just like different stories.
It's just different iterations of the same information. If you read the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, you realize that all religions sprung up from that because that came first. So what came first, the chicken or the egg? As a matter of fact, in my book, Compendium of the Emerald Tablets, I list the words of Jesus and the words of Thoth, Atlanteans, side by side. And you go, oh my goodness, he's saying the same thing that Thoth says. Well, how is that possible? When you read the Gospel of the Holy 12, which was left out of the Bible, you discover that he actually went to Egypt to learn the Egyptian mysteries, which were taught by Thoth the Atlantean. So he learned this information from an ancient wisdom teacher, and then that's why he's regurgitating it in the New Testament of the biblical text.
Yeah, I'm like halfway through it now. I started, like my ADD that I haven't diagnosed myself with kicked in, and I started reading something else. I was reading a book called The Case for Christ, and they were talking about the 12 Gospels and why they didn't select all of them. It was based on, I guess, eyewitness testimony and what they displayed, but it still seemed kind of like, it was manipulative. And what I'm trying to say with that is like when people try to quote unquote debunk ancient texts like that, okay, it's been around for a long time, and there's been a lot of translations and a lot of hands it's kind of passed through. Do you leave any potential room for error in regards to the interpretation of the tablets or anything like that? Is there any potential for error in that and maybe mistranslation or anything like that?
It's very hard to mistranslate the tablets because the tablets are being deciphered not by anybody who's got their own agenda. They're being translated by, right now, computers, for example. So you can go to the UCLA CDLI online cuneiform digital library, and you can grab a stone tablet and translate it right inside the system. Yeah,
I was 10 minutes from there. I gotta go. I could just go.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can just read it. And so the reason is like, wait a minute. So this is what it says. This is well documented information. And then we found even older stone tablets that have the same information on them. In other words, people were trying to duplicate the tablet. They wanted to save it in stone so it could stand the test of time. Now, when you get into the parchment paper and the actual written and stuff, all of a sudden you see that they've copied these stories, but they put a little twist on them. So you'll see stories where they've been kind of remixed and made it into a lot of these religious books. And you realize that these religious books were written long after the people were long gone. There was nobody running behind Jesus saying, say that one more time, Jesus. I didn't quite get that last sentence. It just didn't happen like that.
Yeah.
You got to realize the Bible was written after he was dead for thousands of years. So what's really going on here? It's mankind's way of trying to understand the past. And unfortunately, through the Council of Nicaea, kind of curating the text that went into the canonized version of the book, they gave us a little bit of truth and a little bit of remix in order to keep control of the population and have the ability to manipulate it into a way where they can still ensure things go on, like slavery that they had in there, right? The Bible is full of slavery, people enslaving each other. I mean, it's well documented. And different rules that they want to do, like keeping women down and oppressing women, that's all in there. All these things were put into place so they can keep their power, taking over certain lands. This is our land because God gave it to us and all that. Sounds like man. It doesn't sound like the creator of the universe is writing some of this stuff. Now, don't get me wrong. There's good information in the Bible, the Quran, and all of these other religious books. There's great information. Matter of fact, if you apply some of that stuff to your life, you can actually see a change in your life for the better. But you have to be able to discern what is godly and seeking the light and what is actually manipulation by man, because anything man touches is corrupted.
Yes, and that's how I live my life. Like I feel like whenever I see something anywhere, to be honest, I'm like, what's the opposite say?
Right.
It's like it's like it's a battling line. That's why I think the work that you're doing is so important and real. And I feel like, I don't know, these are the conversations I enjoy because it explores the stuff that I think is the truth. And I think what you're doing is incredible. And do you ever feel like you came from somewhere else? Like where you're here for, obviously here for a purpose. I think everyone is in some capacity, but you're doing some crazy shit.
Yeah.
So it's like, do you feel like are you human? Like, where are you from?
I get asked that question a lot. I do feel like I'm living my life's purpose.
Amen.
I was running very successful businesses. I had started my first business when I was 12. I was making more money than my parents when I was 13. Right, that was my digital car stereo company. I was one of the first people selling digital car stereos, buying them wholesale from Galaxy Electronics out of New York, right here. Actually, Galaxy is still in business, by the way. And then from there, just going into other businesses, eventually starting and growing a big call center. I had a 5,000 square foot call center. I was making $100,000 a week. I had one of the very first .coms. I sold that for millions of dollars in 2004. And this other call center I started was doing phenomenal numbers, but I walked in one day and I told my partners, I said, guys, I got to walk away from this. I just can't do my life's passion while I'm working here. And I said, you guys can split up my share. I don't even want a penny. I just walked away with what I had in my pockets and I started over. I went 100% into the knowledge. Not to start learning it, but to actually begin to disperse the information. I have been waiting and waiting and waiting to be able to do this. And I finally said, the only way it's going to get done full time, the way it's supposed to be, I was dabbling in it, was if I just go cold turkey and stop everything. I started doing that in 2011. And so I just went cold turkey and just, got into this, and I just feel like I'm living in my passion. So even though I'm slaving away 15, 16 hours a day, traveling and bouncing around the world like a ping pong ball, I think last year I spent 9 months in hotels.
9 months.
Yeah, 9 months in hotels.
I always said I liked hotels, but 9 months is heavy.
That's a lot. It's a lot.
That's a lot.
And but to do this and to travel the world and meet the sages and the wisdom keepers and go to ancient sites and do research and meet up with scientists and research and investigation and study. But for me, it's my passion, so it doesn't feel like work. I'm living in my passion,
But I know you just explained it, so sorry if I missed it. But why this? Like, why this specifically? Like, why all this? Like, what did you see? What secrets did you see? And why was it so important to tell everyone all this information?
It just goes back to understanding that the past is prologue. When I began to really open my eyes up to advanced technologies that exist from a very young age, I've been researching aerospace tech since I was in the first grade at Rainbow Park Elementary, Encyclopedia Britannica, 1977. And then fast forward, going all the way up and then understanding the connection between ancient civilizations and advanced technology, and then really getting into the ancient past and discovering what the past is prologue. So what happened then is going to rehappen and continue to rehappen. I've seen a track record over time. My mission became, how can I be a part of the change? How can I be a part of helping mankind see where we went wrong in the past, what really happened in the past, and how we can make adjustments and changes to ourselves now so we can really truthfully create a better future, not relying on poly tricksters and all this other stuff that's going on the outside and governments, but really relying on ourselves, self-reliance, and understanding how to love one another and how to treat each other like brothers and sisters and create the new heaven on earth that we deserve to have, that we should, like, it's our birthright. Understanding that we deserve to have abundance and heaven now, not wait to die so we can live.
And what are those errors?
Those errors are, believing in poly tricks. I call it poly tricks. Believing that there's going to be this guy or woman that's going to win the presidency, that's going to come and change everything in the world and fix all of your problems. It's never happened. It's never happened. Not one president. The hood where I grew up was so bad, and I went back a few months ago. It's even worse. And how many presidents has it been since Jimmy Carter? I saw Jimmy Carter get elected. So it's been all the way now. We got Biden, and it's still even worse. There's nobody coming to fix our communities. There's nobody coming to wake up the people. There's nobody coming to change and put better systems in place. It's up to us to do that. That's why every 4 years when I go to the voting booth, I get in line like everyone else, and I put my name on the ballot. I vote for myself because I'm the president. And that's how I treat myself and my wife and my children and everything else. And I take that kingship and I say, I'm going to make the changes. I'm going to contribute to community. I'm going to fix problems. I'm going to become a solutions provider. And that's what I've done. And if everybody took that mindset, this world would change overnight and they would realize no need for governments, which are just siphoning revenue and money out of us and utilizing us as chattel when they're supposed to be servants to us. They have it flipped around and we're serving them, right? And so all these things that we've allowed to happen to us by playing this dirty game instead of realizing this table is like a chessboard and they're playing the chess on our backs. If we just stand up, the board falls and it's all over.
Amen. So does it all come back to that going inward individually?
That's right.
And it's like, is that just the programming that makes it seem like people are obviously in different circumstances that I cannot relate to that are just, maybe some people start on second base, some people start at home plate. What is that game or what is that reprogramming to get people that are in, more disadvantageous positions to like believe that, oh wait, like, okay, they're in a really bad neighborhood and financials, this, that, and the other. How do they start really believing, oh wait, I have control when they might be like, they're thinking of all these external factors, which is, in our human skin, that makes sense.
It makes sense.
It makes sense.
Yes.
And I can't relate to that. But at the same time, how do those people reprogram to believe that I can go inward and I can change my life?
I grew up in Opelika down in Miami, Florida. That's one of the worst places you can grow up. It was inside of this area called the Bermuda Triangle because there was a steel triangular gate around the city, the unincorporated area of Opelika, to keep the crime on the inside. I seen my neighbors being murdered, shot in front of my face, dead bodies in the street coming home, my neighbors getting stabbed 100 times, and all these things, right? Growing up, the crossing guards would rob us on the way to school. The school crossing guards would steal your money or your food, either or. You were giving it up unless you snuck into the school from the back gate.
I was just saying, how do you cross the street?
Yeah. So we had to sneak, go around 2 blocks over, go up the back road and come in the back gate and jump over the gate to get into school.
Wow.
Okay? That's elementary. The junior high school was shut down because the kids were killing each other. So this is where I grew up. And every day I would see my friends going to the ice cream truck. And I was like, how'd they get the money? We're eating Cairo syrup and toast for dinner every night. We're stealing fruits off of trees in the neighborhood and we have our water connected to our neighbor's house so we can take showers in the backyard. That's how we were living. And I'm going, how in the hell are they getting this money? So one day I said to myself, what can I do? I just want to get the bazooka bubble gum with the comic strip in it. So I said, toys. I don't need toys. I don't even play with toys. So I went and got a Winn-Dixie grocery store milk crate and I put all my toys inside of it, from broken ones and everything. Boom, boom, boom. And I violated my mom's rule about not leaving the front of the gate. And I went door to door around the entire block. I squared a block and I asked for donations. Sir, ma'am, a nickel, a quarter, a penny, anything. I'm just trying to make money to get to the ice cream truck. I just want a donation. You can have a toy for your kid. And I sold all the toys. And I got back to that square one and I had about $13 in change in my hand. And I was like, wow, that's it to myself. I said, I'm going to save myself. It starts with small actions like that. And I was like, man, I realized that nobody was going to come save me. It was going to be me. And when they have that epiphany, when they realize nobody's going to come and save you, take action. That little action step, it starts off like you're planting seeds and then it begins to grow and develop. The next thing you know, you have a whole tree because you realize by taking these small action steps, I can see immediate change. Immediately, I had money in my hand. I can go to the ice cream truck. I can get my bazooka bubblegum. I can sit down in my backyard and read the comic strip and I can laugh. And my life completely changed. And I realized that I was going to get out of the situation that I was in. So for the people who are suffering, I understand. I've been there. I had holes in my shoes. My pants, I only had 2 pair of pants. I would bleach my pants at night and then dye them with Rich dye the next day so it looked like I had multiple pair of pants to go to school so I wouldn't get beat up the next day because the kids would beat you up. It was rough, But at the same time, I still had that in my mind, like I can fix this problem. If I come up with ideas, I can take action. Right after that situation, a few years later, my dad calls me in the room and says, hey, you got to get a job, You got to get a job. And I'm 12. And I'm like, okay, well, what do I have to do? Miami News was hiring 12-year-olds to go door-to-door to sell newspaper subscriptions. So I started going door-to-door to do newspaper subscriptions. I saved my money because I know I'm going to need it. My friends are spending it on junk. Turn around, I see that Galaxy Electronics ad in the Opportunity magazine at the grocery store. They got the digital car stereos. I go, that's it. I start buying digital car stereos, COD, cash on delivery. So you can call them up, they ship them to you, you give the UPS man the cash, they give you the goods. I started selling them to the upperclassmen in high school. Word got around. Everybody needed a car stereo that was digital because they were tired of the analog. It just came out. So I hit a gold mine and started my very first business, which really blew up and went like global. I mean, it was incredible. The money I was making was sick. If you can imagine making $3,000 a week in the 1980s, that's crazy money for a kid, right?
Yeah.
And so then eventually I added, car installation. I would have my friend come over and install the stereos and the 6x9s and the subwoofers and all that. Just expanded and expanded. But again, I had the idea. I was prepared this time. I instead of blowing money and spending it on stupid stuff, I took advantage of my opportunities. Where this is where people go wrong. They don't realize that, oh man, I'm got the victim mindset. The man is holding me down and I can't do this and I can't do that. And look what's going on here and there. And they're blaming everything on the outside instead of realizing, well, what are some of the things that I didn't do that are keeping me in this situation? Whether it's no matter how small it is, analyze it, understand it, pick it apart and realize, well, what if I did this? These micro changes turn into macro evolutions in your life. And so by me just holding on to that money and not blowing it, I paid my dad his $100 rent that he wanted. And I got myself a 1995 calculator watch from Kmart. That was it. The rest, I saved. And when the time came, when the opportunity arose, I was prepared and I took advantage of it. Whereas a lot of people in these situations, they never see the opportunity. It just flows right by their eyes and they're blind. They can't see or sense it, but they're there. They're always there. But we have to sense these opportunities when they arise, no matter how small they are. And little by little, you can climb out of that hole. And that's exactly what I did.
We're still gonna go. I need to dab you up after that. I appreciate you sharing that. That was awesome, dude. For real.
Thank you, man.
Seriously, it's inspirational.
Thank you, brother.
And I just, that it's like when you just said those micro steps to make those macro changes, it's interesting to me because like it's just always the action steps. And we talk about the manifestation, the thought, you have to take those steps. But it all started with that bazooka.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like how important is that bazooka gum? Like whatever you find, and that bazooka gum obviously evolved into different things.
Yeah.
But like how important it is to get is it the inspiration or like that target, that goal? Like I wonder if it's people that are the negative talk in their head, or whether they're going through whatever it is, or is it like the lack of finding their bazooka gum?
Yeah. The lack of finding their passion. For me, I just wanted to feel normal. Like if I can get that bazooka bubble gum and I can read that comic strip, maybe I remember this is the 1970s. There's 3 channels on TV. There's no cell phones, tablets. There's nothing. There's no cable TV didn't even exist yet, right?
That's crazy.
And so,
sometimes I'm like, is that better? You know what I mean? It's like it's more challenging, but
I mean, you know how you knew where your friends were in the neighborhood? You could see where the bikes and skateboards were.
Yeah.
That's how you knew where your friends were hanging out. There was no texting and come up meet me over here and all this stuff. So it was just like, man, just to feel like a normal kid, to have that gum and read that comic strip and laugh, And so they have to find what is it that they want out of life? What is it that's going to make them feel good? For me, it was just being able to sit down in the shade of my house on the back porch and read the comic strip. But it turns into more and more things. Obviously, the next thing was focusing, getting out of this neighborhood. So I moved out when I was 16, and I got my mom to sign a document for me to move into this place called Star Creek Apartments, which is not too far away, actually, but a brand new development, nice little apartment for myself. And I got out of there, man, and I never looked back. And so it's just like, finding these things that what are the things that you feel like you deserve, and if you deserve it, then go after it. Because I feel like everything is our birthright. Whatever we feel like we deserve is our birthright, and I feel like abundance is also our birthright. That we deserve abundance, and abundance is not becoming a billionaire. Abundance is your needs are met when you need them to be met. So I felt like I deserved that my needs be met. I deserved to have running water in a shower. I deserved to have a sink that actually drains. We didn't have a sink that could drain. We would have to wash our dishes in buckets and pour the water out in the backyard because the septic tank was broken. We didn't have money to fix it. We didn't have hot water. It was just like, we didn't have food. These are the necessities.
Yeah.
I just want my needs to be met. And I feel like I deserve that. And I told my mother that I don't belong here. And I'm going to do everything I can to put myself in a much better position, which is exactly what I did. And it's just a matter of a mindset and taking what Dr. Amen is my psychiatrist. Dr. Daniel, he's the number one psychiatrist in the world. He does a lot of, he does the whole NFL for their concussions and everything now. But he told me that after he looked at my brain scan, he said, you didn't suffer from PTSD. He said he could see a trauma diamond pattern in my brain. You can see when you see the diamond, it's a trauma pattern burnt into the brain and through the SPECT scan. He said, but you didn't suffer from PTSD. You have something else called PTG, post-traumatic growth syndrome. So from that's what he said.
That sounds good.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good thing, thankfully. Now it has its pluses and its negatives. Everything has good and good and bad, just like anything in life. And for the good part, it drove me, and it made me. It just drove me to even overachieve in many different areas of my life, and it made me strive always for more greatness. In other areas, though, it can turn you into a workaholic. It can create a situation where you may be neglecting loved ones because you're so hyper-focused on other things. So you have to find this balance. I'm finally at a place in my life where I'm finally found the balance within the last 5 years. But overall, it did drive me to get out of my situations. And I never take the victim mindset. I don't care. I don't blame anybody for anything. I'm not blaming Trump. I'm not blaming Biden. I'm not blaming Obama and all these people. Because why? Because at the end of the day, I have a certain level of control over my life. Mm-hmm. And when you understand that the system is created with loopholes and Easter eggs like video games, they always leave those little breadcrumbs because they themselves know how to navigate the matrix, because they're going to operate within it, the framework, but they're always going to do better. And when I found out how to discover those Easter eggs and those shortcuts, I just follow the leader, man. Don't reinvent the wheel. Use what they left behind for us to use, for themselves to use, and you can use it for yourself legally. So that's what I do.
You know what's crazy is that we went from a bazooka bubblegum to Anunnaki, and look at you now. That shit's crazy. I'm talking about, there's inspiration. Like, I'm not even trying, it came off funny, but it's like real as it gets, dude. That's crazy. Yeah. And it all started from that little, like you said, micro steps to change the macro. That's such an important thing to say. It's like and I use this same analogy all the time. It's very cliche. It's like going to the gym. It's like when you go to the gym one day, it's like you're not going to get massive biceps. It's like there's micro movements every day, and then all of a sudden, like 6 months down the road, you see that. Yeah. But again, it is like that. It seems like there needs to be a reprogramming. Yeah. And everything you explained with these formulas, and it's just like we're in like, we are like a computer within a computer within a computer within a computer. So it's like that reprogramming. Mm-hmm. Is that the key to it? Is it just, are we all trying to reprogram right now?
Everyone, not everyone, but most people need to understand that they have to unlearn everything they've learned. Mm-hmm. Everything they've learned has been programming code. Like I said before, when you're born, you're given a name, a race, and a religion, and you spend the rest of your life defending a false identity. Most people have no idea who they are. The name that you have, you were given that name, right? Your belief system, you were given that belief system. A lot of people have never taken the time to break that apart even and analyze that and begin to question that and look even deeper into that, right? Why am I given this race? What is this race thing? What is this religion? What is this dogma that I've been forced to learn? And if I don't do it, then I'm going to suffer and die and all these other things. So when somebody has the courage, because it takes courage to break these programming codes, to break that open and really break it down and start asking meaningful questions and then seeking answers for themselves, not taking the word of this one and that one and that one, but really going and doing their own research. Mm-hmm. Then they begin to get to the higher levels of consciousness and begin to really know who they truly are.
Yeah, I think that's key to explain. Even not taking your word for it, for example, or my word for it, whatever it is. Like, that's why I like having these conversations. I've had conversations in this podcast, and I'm like, this is freaking awesome. But in regards to like sharing different ideas, like people, like I've had people reach out like, oh, why did you have that conversation? I'm like, first of all, thank you for reaching out. I try to be nice, but like that, you make your own decision. I'm not here to, like, I have someone on, they tell me something, you figure it out. You don't have to, just because you're hearing someone talk doesn't mean you have to believe it. Like, look into it. And I think that goes back to looking into yourself. Like you said, that is like, I'm still 35 years old. I'm still learning more about me and exploring different things and still figuring it out. But it's just like a never ending cycle, and it's exciting at the same time. You know, I'm blessed to have the life that I have. I have a lot of advantages that a lot of people don't. So I'm aware of that, but it's just like this never ending cycle of going deeper and deeper. And I've realized as I've done that, it's just this void, not in a negative sense, that just keeps going on. Yeah. And I'm going to revert back to where we were before, because you mentioned the Anunnaki came from space. So I want to ask you, like, what's going on with aliens? Yeah. It's a hard turn, guys. hard turn. But because I want to, like, is that a dimensional thing? Is that like, what is going on? Yeah. How much do I matter, man?
There's a lot going on. See, these physical corporeal bodies that we think are the end all be all and the masters, we think we're the masters of the universe and the highest, pinnacle of civilization, not even close.
Right.
I mean, human beings.
Is this water?
This is water. Okay. This is hydrogen. and oxygen. Okay. But if you look at the human civilization of Homo sapien on a geological clock, and imagine it was a clock, a regular clock, right? With a hand, short hand and long hand. We've been here for less than a minute.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. We've been talking for an hour 15.
Okay. So, right. So time doesn't exist. Clocks exist.
Okay. Oh, dope.
Yeah. And so we have to understand, like, wait a minute, what's going on here? We've been here for now. So in less than 100 years, what have we been able to achieve? Now let's take this and analyze this. We can take 100 years ago, we were in horse, buggy, and carriages, right? Using oil lamps. Now we can send remote control cars to Mars. We have Voyager 1 and 2 heading into interstellar space. We have the Huygens probe that did great surveys of Saturn and Saturn's rings, and the probe that landed on Titan, and all these incredible things, feats of technology we've been able to achieve, the Hubble and the WISE telescope and so forth and so on, right? So now we say, well, 100 years we did that. Imagine a civilization that's been around for 1 million years longer than us. Whoa,
Yeah.
what can they do? So you look at these tablets, and some of these beings appear to have arrived here about 450,000 years ago. Imagine being able to travel that distance 500,000 years ago. Where would they be right now? So when you understand the how technology grows exponentially over time, like right now, I think Google just created a new quantum computer that's 270 million times faster than the previous one, which is only 2 years old. Imagine those leaps and bounds in technology that we're doing right now, and now take that to another civilization that's been around for 1 million years. All of a sudden, whatever they do is magic. They're gods. They can think something and it appears. They can manifest solid matter from thought. As a matter of fact, in the Emerald Tablets, Thoth talks about manifesting solid matter from photons and frequencies. And what just happened a couple years ago in a laboratory in Europe, scientists got together and they actually, for the first time in history, manifested or created solid matter from photons and frequencies.
And now what? What's next from that?
Well, then you can have cities. You can build an entire city off of frequencies. You can manifest a city. You don't have to have people out there sweating, laboring, picking up one stone at a time. You can actually manifest an entire building. You can have self-healing buildings. So if something happens to a building and it gets damaged by weathering or by an impact, the building can just heal itself.
So it's alive?
It's in a
Not
way.
consciously?
In a way, it's alive. Well, everything is conscious.
Everything.
Because, well, through the double-slit experiment, we discovered that in quantum physics, that electrons and photons make conscious decisions to operate as waves or particles,
right?
Based on observation.
That was like the looking around. Okay, that's what
Right.
you said earlier. That's what I said. I understood.
Yeah. So that means that every atom has electrons, and that means every atom is conscious because the electrons are conscious. So we don't really create. Man doesn't make anything. Man only stacks atoms. We don't create the atoms.
Don't stack money, stack atoms.
Stack atoms.
Yeah,
That's what we're doing. We're stacking atoms. And so what is a human being looking through an electron microscope? It's a stack of atoms learning about itself.
What the fuck, man? Blow him. Like I knew this was gonna happen. I was walking in this room. I'm like, this is just gonna be awesome. And you're exceeding expectations. It's so cool to sit in front of you. This is wild. Okay, so what is gonna happen when we pass? What's gonna happen to us?
I believe that according to the ancient sages and the wisdom keepers that I visited all around the world, the temple priests and the pyramid priests and the Aboriginal elders that I went for a walkabout in Australia, they all have the same story. And the story is that we're in sleepy time, and that when you die, you actually wake up. That there is a higher version of ourselves that exists in a higher realm or a higher dimension, a higher state of being. And that this is the proving or the testing ground to learn lessons and transmit information back to your higher self. And that at some point you wake up to the real you. And death is you're not to be worried or afraid of death. It's just another transition into another state of being. And that energy can't be destroyed in science. You know, the second law of thermodynamics. Energy can't be destroyed. It can only be transformed. So in that way, I'm never worried about death. I'm not worried about passing away or dying, because I know that I'm already immortal. I am already eternal. It's just an energy formation of me existing here temporally in this form, in this avatar body. But on the eternal scale, I've been here for eons.
And that's comforting.
Yes.
Because we have the human experience, you know, we've gone through losing our loved ones, and that's real. I mean, I think
yes, it's real.
After what you've told me, I'm not sure what the fuck is real anymore.
It's real because it's connected to real emotions.
Right. So it's like, how do you connect that? Like, just the comprehension of it and the contemplating of like, if you believe in that, which, you know, I'm sure plenty of people don't, everything you're saying, I'm into it. I believe in that. That resonates with me personally. It feels good to me. And I believe that. It's like connecting those two to get through that pain. Cause like the real human aspect and human experience that is real is it's hard. It's hard when you lose. I get, okay. This weekend has been so beautiful, but outside of just meeting you, I'm having a family episode at the 9/11 memorial in a couple hours. I got 3 hours to like actually set up outside. It's gonna be really powerful.
Wow.
And then yesterday I had an episode. Okay. So I know you guys probably don't want to hear me talk, but I'm gonna go on for a second. I had an episode a month ago with, I spoke to a man that was dying and his wife, first person I ever got a chance to meet that knew he was dying. He ended up passing 2 weeks later before I released the episode. And then we talked on a computer screen with his wife and they invited me to the memorial. I happened to be here for this episode today, showed up yesterday, met his wife in person. It was like a beautiful experience. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because I saw the pain in her eyes. You know what I mean? It's like, she just lost the love of her life. She knew she was going to lose him, and she's full of so much love, which is beautiful. But like, just the human pain of it. Yeah. It's like, I wish I could just extinguish all the pain, but then I go backwards. I'm like, no, like that is part of what we've been discussing. That is the lesson. That is the experience we were supposed to have. Yeah. And I feel like everything is in its place where it's supposed to be. And so it's like, I feel like if we look at it like that, and then fast forward into what you were saying, that we're just waking up. And again, it goes back to beliefs. And if you don't believe it, it's not going to resonate. Yeah. I buy into that and it makes me feel better, but it's not going to distinguish the human pain that you have. It's not. But I think in time with that work that we do, it's going to soften it. Yeah. And again, it's like all those lessons, man, it's bad, but it's great. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, it's bad, but it's great.
Well, it's what life is like in the third dimension. It's truthfully experiencing every aspect of life and consciousness here while we exist in this realm. And you're right about feeling the pain. One thing I learned from being so stoic over the years and then finally meeting Elizabeth, my wife now, is she really taught me, like I said, how to feel the emotions and that it wasn't okay to suppress emotions, that to really actually feel them and go through it. And it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to be in pain and agony, right? It's okay to have these emotions and express them and flow through them. Face them head on, allow your body to emote, allow your body to feel those emotions, right? And let them pass through. Otherwise, you create suppressed emotion, which creates dis-ease in the body, and that turns into disease, which has you pushing up daisies.
Yes. Yes, dude. And I just lost my train of thought in regards to what I was doing. I had a really good question, guys. I was so tapped in that I forgot the question. That was what it was. When you said we wake up and we're going to a higher self, what are we doing there? Are we playing checkers? Like what is that? What is that life? Is it energy? Is it not physical?
When I look at what's happening here, and I go again, as above, so below, I see that again, this is a proving ground, a testing ground. And I read some of the ancient texts, like Thoth talks about having the ability to transfer himself into this realm where he can actually be with the energy that exists as his loved ones. But he went there for a visit and he chose to come back here because he said, my work wasn't done yet. And so when you see that, it's like, wow, there seems to be this place, this euphoric place that does exist where the spirit or the soul can rest. But he even talks about the fact that even in other dimensions, there's more work to do. He said, many of the worlds I've traveled, many of the races of men on their worlds, he traveled in the spirit realm, and he says he's watched civilizations rise and fall. You know how long it takes to watch a civilization rise and fall?
1 minute.
Right. Well, yeah. Well, from a higher dimension, from the third dimension, it takes forever. But from a higher dimension, possibly, he's watching from higher dimension. Now, in anything above the third dimension, you can see the past, present, and future simultaneously. If you remember the movie Interstellar, he falls into a tesseract, a fourth dimensional hypercube, and he's watching his daughter in their house. Right. He can't get to her, but he can see her in different stages of development, different ages. So it's like seeing yourself in your own house. If you were in a higher dimension, you'd be able to see yourself at 10, 15, 30, right? In the same house, because you're in a higher dimension. You can see yourself at different stages of it. You can see all of that at once. And the only way to communicate with her was through vibration, right? But that's a real scenario in terms of what science actually says. And so it's possible that he did this from a higher dimension. To observe civilizations rising and falling would take eons and eons. On many worlds, he must have achieved the ability, he said, to go through the gates of Urulu, which he gives a code to get through those gates in cymatics, and to watch these civilizations from a higher dimension.
What happened to him, Thoth? What happened
He's
to
still
him?
here.
What's he doing?
Yeah, he's still on his mission of raising consciousness, teaching. The word thought comes from Thoth. Alchemy and chemistry from the land of Kemet come from Thoth. The building techniques and the blueprints to build most of the megalithic sites on Earth all come from Thoth. He was a master architect.
He's the guy. Is he the guy?
He's not the main guy, no. He's actually the son of Ea Enki, which makes Anu his grandfather.
What's going on with them?
Well, according to the ancient text, it was this last pyramid war that was started by Amun-Ra, also known as Marduk. In the Torah and in the biblical text, he's known as Marduk as well. And he escaped this war, but this war wreaked a lot of havoc on Earth, and he used something called the WMD. Does that sound familiar? A weapon of mass destruction. That's what Bush Jr. was after in Iraq. And this created something called the evil wind in the text and tablets. And this evil wind was killing people. Their eyes were bleeding, their nails were falling out, their hair was falling out, they were getting sick. That's radiation sickness. Mm-hmm. Where's the evidence of this? Go look at Mohenjo-Daro in the Indus Valley, just outside of Afghanistan. You'll see that there's a city there that was destroyed by a weapon that was so hot it turned the buildings into glass, and the bodies are in the street laying down holding hands still till this very day, thousands of years later. No evidence of any scavenging of any animals, and the bodies are still higher than background level radiation because they are radioactive. Then the same thing with the sands of Giza. The Nile and all that ran right up to the pyramids. The pyramid at Giza was a lush and plush area, tropical. What created that desert there? A war. That's why when you go to Africa, go to Egypt in Africa, and dig your hand in the sand, you'll pull up balls of glass. Why? Because 3,000 degree temperature weapons fire created glass there at Giza and wiped out that area, which forced it to become a desert. So these ancient wars that were talked about in so many texts and tablets, the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita, the Ring Veda, the War of the 10 Kings, which took place in space according to the text, these wars were here. And unfortunately, a lot of these people left. In one tablet, it says, get in your skyship and forebode. Like means get the hell out of here. But some did stay. They stayed because they had already married women. And had families. So it's an interesting story that some left and some stayed.
God, school is bullshit. I haven't been taught any of this shit, which I knew this going in. I was like, which is all like, we have to look out. We have to look inner, but we have to look a little bit outer to different paths. 100%.
We got to research. I mean, all this is, everything I'm telling everyone, they can look it all up. That's what I love about my knowledge is it's all researchable. Mm-hmm. I'm not giving you anything that's off the dome.
Yeah, except the only thing off the dome is what you said, like just connecting data points.
Connecting the data points and coming up with a hypothesis.
Yes, which is part of the expansion, isn't it? You have to look at the data points in order to expand on ideas and where new ideas come from. And you're just, and the beautiful part is like you're doing so much work, and even with that, you're passing the baton. Yeah. You know, eventually at some point, you're passing the baton for the work to be continued.
It needs to be duplicatable.
Yeah.
That's why I teach.
You're setting it. Yeah, it's incredible. What else? Do you have any thoughts out there? You have any questions you want to throw in here? You're here too, Mama. Damn, man. No, this is again, I want to thank you for taking the opportunity to speak with me. You know, obviously this podcast is about death, but it's just interesting how it's not about death anymore after this conversation. I'm like, I believed in a transition and all that stuff, but with all this information about what the heck is happening all at once, it's like, there's so much going on. And even beyond everything you just explained, like, how much is left for you to discover? There's even like got to be more information that you have no idea, and you know so much.
It's unlimited.
It's unlimited.
It's unlimited. I mean, think about this. We live in a multiverse. And so there's a version of us in the multiverse that exists within different universes. Mm-hmm. And right now, simultaneously, all doing something totally different. In other universes, we're not even sitting at this podcast together. You're doing something else, and I'm doing something else, right? Or I may have already been killed, or maybe you've been killed already right now in another universe. Mm-hmm. And I think that even our minds, scientists discovered that the synapses in our brains phase in and out of the third dimension. They don't know where these synapses are actually going sometimes. And I personally believe, this is another hypothesis, that we might be connecting to our other selves within other universes, within the multiverse. And sometimes we come up with an epiphany or idea or a concept that we think is original, but it may have come from ourselves from another total location.
So that's a good discussion. So is that where it taps into? Okay, I know we were talking about manifestation, where it's the thought, but then it takes action, and those epiphanies are saying maybe we're pulling from another multiverse that say, for example, okay, so like this podcast is like this is my life now, like in regards to, and I have plans of where I want to get it, and I'm not there where I see it, but maybe in some other multiverse, my podcast and this platform, this brand that I'm building is already there.
Yeah.
So what is that a real process of trying to tap into that?
Yeah.
And it's just, and by tapping into, am I just imagining where that is and then just trying to download information? Like,
there's a technique you can use. It's a multiverse meditation. And this is taught by the ancients, okay? They call it the many worlds, the many world meditation. And so in this meditation, the first thing you do is you sit quietly in a quiet room and you see your thoughts in your mind as being inside of a bowl within your mind. And then you see a hand reaching in and taking the thoughts out little by little and just emptying them out. So you get to a very low amount of thoughts. And then when you get to a very low amount of thoughts, you envision whatever your view is of what a multiverse would look like. Everyone maybe has a different viewpoint of what it is. But through that, you envision connecting to yourself, to multiple versions of yourself consciously until you find the one that has succeeded in the version that you want, the level you want to succeed at in this podcast, for example. And then you begin to talk to yourself and ask yourself for actual advice. And you bring that knowledge back here into this reality. So you go to the multidimensional platform and get that information and you bring it back to the third dimensional reality here in this universe and you act on it.
Dope. I just also I was envisioning that while you're saying it. It looks like a dope tattoo somehow. I just that was the wrong idea that I wanted, but it's okay. In regards to that practice of emptying your thoughts and putting the things in there, is it just a lot of that process? I feel like I'm an overthinker for pros and cons to that. Is it just, am I just getting creative with that? You know what I mean? Like, put less pressure on, okay, am I putting the right ideas in there? Is I put less pressure on what am I putting in there? And just as long as it's positive where I know I want to go, that's enough?
Yeah, just positive. You're taking your thoughts out. You're getting rid of all the side talk and all the chatter, all the noise when you have the hand removing the thoughts. And you can, at first it might take you 5-10 minutes to get that achieved, to get it down to a very low vibration where there's hardly any thoughts going crazy. But after a while, from practice, you can get it done in less than a minute. It just takes time and practice.
I love that. I want to be clear for anyone. I think that's very interchangeable. Obviously, it doesn't be with goals, this or that. If you're just in a shitty place, you could pick out, put whatever you want in there. And it's with time. It's not just one session.
Yeah,
it's over time.
Over time, you develop the ability to do this. This is what's taught by the masters. This is nothing I made up.
Yeah,
this is what's taught by the masters, and having that ability to do that and tap into your other self and get information and bring information from different sources. Also, you can tap into information that exists right here within this realm that has nothing to do with you, just because conscious thoughts are light waves. Like right now, as we're thinking, these light waves that we can't see with our naked eye, because our eye only sees 1% of the light spectrum, are leaving our skull. We know this because I can put an EEG cap on your head and connect it to a computer, and I can see your thoughts on the computer screen. So we know that this is happening. Now, these are like radio waves, and similarity in that they go out onto this energetic grid we call the universe, and they exist and permeate for eternity. Just like if I was 100 million light years away from here, and eventually the radio waves from I Love Lucy from the 1960s got within range, and I can pick up those frequencies. If I had the technology, I can decode I Love Lucy and watch it. That's how long ago, and it could have been 100 million years that it took to get there at the speed of light. I can still watch I Love Lucy. Same thing with your mind. Now, scientists discovered something interesting 2 years ago, that our thoughts quantum entangle with other thoughts in the known universe. So through quantum entanglement, being on the same frequency of another energy field or energy grid, or even sometimes particles, you can actually get information transferred directly back to you. And if you can discern it and act on it, you can utilize it as valid information. There's so much going on that the science is breaking through at every turn. It's incredible.
And the reason, again, we could get a little conspiratorial or truthful, rather. Sometimes that's the same word. They don't want it, like whoever they is, they don't want us to know this.
Well, if this was to be taught in schools from the time kids were in kindergarten, this world would transform in one generation.
Literally.
And all these systems that they put in place, all these different matrices they put in place over us, the school, the education matrix, the prison matrix, the polytrichor matrix, the religion matrix, and all, they would collapse. In one generation, trillions of dollars in industry would collapse because we would realize who we truly are.
And I want to be respectful for your time, but there's one thing you just triggered in my head. Because it kind of, what I was just saying about they don't want us to know this. I remember listening to you saying something, maybe it was the Anunnaki, that when they there was something in their DNA that we were restricted at certain levels of growth or our abilities. I'm saying that in a very silly way, but
Well, they set it up through, if you read the Epic of Atrahasis and the Enuma Elish and the Seven Tablets of Creation, similar creation stories, they talk about the fact that they took the existing being on this planet, which would be us, our cousins, actually, our cousins. They weren't Homo sapiens sapien yet, and they genetically modified them. When Enki did it, he had love for humans. For whatever reason, it's not really truly clear why he fell in love with humans so much. His brother was against that. His brother was Enlil, also known as Yahweh in the modern day Bible. But Enki hid a little extra code in there. So his job was a mission where he was given the task of unplugging a lot of our DNA, genetically tinkering with us, shrinking our pineal gland, getting us to not tap into our higher selves and see them as the gods so that we would do the work for them. So the best slave is a slave that doesn't know it's a slave. If we're laboring for you because we think we're honoring the gods, that's what it was really going. That's what really going on.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, right. It keeps playing over and over again. But he hid a little code in there. And in the myth of Adapa, another ancient text, it talks about the fact that they discovered, unbeknownst to Enlil, and he was very pissed off about this, that mankind, Adamu or Adam, us, Adapa, we had encoded in our body the mysteries and the secrets of the universe. And a little something, a time capsule genetically was put into us that when we reach a certain level of consciousness, it would unlock itself. And we would see this incredible growth and this incredible path for mankind going in the right direction, seeking the light and growing beyond even our wildest dreams. And that we, even ourselves, we can achieve higher levels than even the Anunnaki had achieved. And so that's in a text called the Myth of Adapa. And that the wisdom of the entire universe is inside of our bodies. And to prove this, George Church, a scientist, he discovered that DNA can store information and data. So he took digital bits of data from zeros and ones, converted it into A's, C's, T's, and G's, and then wrote it directly onto DNA. He said, holy crap, I can do this. Then he replicated the file 80 billion times.
These numbers, man.
And then he said, this is crazy. So then after he did that, 80 million times.
Okay. Still a lot.
Still a lot. Then he said, wait, can I get it back to the server again? So he converted it back from A's, C's, T's, and G's back into zeros and ones and read right up to the server. Then they said, man, this is crazy. So then they said, how much can we store? One drop of DNA, 1 gram is a drop, could store over 433 petabytes of data, which is an insane amount of storage capability. And then some other scientists took an atom, specifically a holmium atom, and they were able to write data directly onto an individual atom. And so now they're saying that also they've discovered that there's information encoded into the atoms on our body. So we have information stored in DNA in a volume. We have information stored in atoms, and our body can hold over 13 to 14 billion years of data. So the myth of Adapa text is accurate based on modern science. We are holding the keys to unlock everything in the known universe.
Here I am having to renew my Dropbox terabytes. I'm running out of space for this podcast, and meanwhile, I've been in my DNA the whole damn time. $1,000 a month for Dropbox. Fuck you. So ultimately, it's all within us.
It's all within us. Take a journey to inner space. That's where all the secrets lie.
I'm like scared to say anything else. I feel like that's where it should end right there, dude. I want to be respectful for your time. That was an hour and a half. I could go on I could talk to you forever. I appreciate the time. I'm very, very truly grateful for this opportunity to sit in front of you. I have no idea how much it means. It's so cool to talk to you. Thank you for your time. I hope you take a fucking vacation soon. Take a break.
December?
Yeah, awesome.
I'll take the month of December off.
Beautiful. Yeah. Okay, whatever you got a lot of time in hotels still.
Yeah, well, I'm ping-ponging all around the world nonstop.
You're doing a service, man. So, heavy lies the sword. Is that heavy lies the what? What's the quote? What is, anyone know what I'm trying to say right here? Heavy lies the crown. Yeah, there it goes.
The crown.
Damn, I knew I should have stopped talking. You just dropped the bar on us. And I just ruined it all. Okay. Brother, I don't know if there's anything else you want to say on the way out. Since I just ruined the first bar that you dropped.
That's okay. No, it's all right.
Is there anything you want to
plug? I just tell people, look, man, just don't become a fanatic. And that's one thing I'm seeing out here. A lot of people are becoming very fanatical. They get too radical on one thing. Everything requires balance, right? Everything has to have balance. You can go out here and be a great person, but still have fun. Enjoy your life. If you like nice things, go get nice things. If you don't like nice things, you like more nature, go to nature. Whatever it is, find a balance within whatever you're doing and enjoy life. Don't become a radical. If somebody says you got to get on this diet and this is the only diet I can be on, I can never have a dessert, give yourself a dessert every now and then. Reward yourself for doing good. Just people have to be a little more light on themselves. I was too hard on myself for decades. So I'm talking from experience, and it almost killed me. I got down to about 175 pounds soaking wet. I was very sickly. I had internal bleeding. I had leaky gut. I had almost verge of osteoporosis. I was very ill. People didn't even know how sick I really truthfully was. But a lot of it was just no self-care, no self-love, and being too fanatical on one thing. Once I opened myself up and relaxed a little bit and began to realize I should enjoy my life a little bit too, and then everything changed. I became healthy again, right? My out view on my personal health and how much love to give myself changed. And I took away that radical mindset. So you got to learn how to have a little bit of balance.
Beautiful. Billy Carson, Dead Talks. Thank you guys for tuning in. And brother, thank you.
Thank you,
It's
man.
fucking so much fun. Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Dead Talks. Please do not forget to hit the subscribe button and also the notification bell. That'll give you updates as to when we post a new video, more episodes, and more content in general. We are streaming on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, and all that. And also find us on Instagram at Dead Talks Podcast or www.deadtalks.net. Thank you so much.